good evening from anywhere you're joining us from all over the world. So I'm Landry Popola. I'm a member of the FIP ECPG publications team, and I have with me the amazing pharmacist, Dr. Emma Paulino. So we're glad to have you. It's really amazing to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Dr. Emma Paulino obtained a bachelor's in pharmaceutical sciences from the Faculty of Pharmacy, the University of Lisbon in 2001, and completed a postgraduate degree in community pharmacy in 2003. She has a postgraduate degree in leadership from the American Pharmacy Society of the United Health System in 2012, and also a postgraduate in health and management from the Portuguese National School of Public Health. She currently works as a community pharmacy at her own pharmacy in Portugal and serves as the general manager of a pharmaceutical company, FIP, which engages community pharmacists for the development and implementation of pharmaceutical services in a virtual chain of over 380 pharmacies. Currently, she serves as the president for the Portuguese National Pharmacists Association. In previous times, she has served as the president of the Lisbon and South branch of the Portuguese Pharmaceutical Society, president of the Pharmaceutical Care Network Europe Group, and also the professional secretary of the FIP. She has also previously been a member of the FIP Program Committee, the Secretary of the Community Pharmacy Section, and Chairperson of the Young Pharmacists Group in Portugal. Get started. I would just like an inquiry into your pharmacy career, right, from your pharmacy school till date.
Thank you very much for your question, which is a very broad one. So I think I will try to summarize. Just starting by saying that I'm a third generation pharmacist. So my grandparents were pharmacists. My mom is a pharmacist. And my brother and my sister, they're also pharmacists, as well as my husband. And I already have 2 nephews in pharmacy school. So probably they will be the 4th generation pharmacists in the family. So I grew up observing the interactions between my grandparents, and particularly my grandfather, whose pharmacy was close to my school, my high school at the time. Me and my brother and my sister, we used to go to the pharmacy when we finished school. So as I was saying, we usually observed the interactions of my grandfather with the community, and I think that I felt inspired by the interactions and by the impact that I felt my grandfather had in the community and in individual people's health. So I always wanted to become a pharmacist. So even when I was going through high school, I always wanted to go to pharmacy school. When I entered pharmacy school, I started engaging also in the Pharmacy Students Association, and that was something that I also took from high school. So I already participated in the Students Association in my hometown high school, and it was something that stuck with me at the time. So when I went to the university, I continued with that. In my last year of university, I was president of the National Pharmacy Students Association, and the following year, I became general secretary of the European Pharmacy Students Federation. because I started to get engaged into in international organizations due to my role as a president in Portugal in the Pharmacy Students Organization. So at that time, we were establishing a permanent office of the European Pharmacy Students Association in Leiden, in the Netherlands. And at the same time, I had to do my practice period for the university degree. So I asked the university if I could do that practice period in the Netherlands and in a community pharmacy in the Netherlands, and they said yes. So I was able to spend a full academic year in the Netherlands, in Leiden, doing my practice period for the university, establishing the permanent office for the European Pharmacy Students Association, and also doing some research for a local organization, as well as organizing a symposium for the European Society of Clinical Pharmacy. So during that year, I had a lot of visits to different sites in the Netherlands, and one of them was to the FIP headquarters in The Hague, where I had the amazing opportunity to interact with the then Secretary General, Ton Hoek, who unfortunately already passed away. But at that time, we discussed a little bit how important it was to ensure that we had early career pharmacists and young pharmacists in the organization. So we had a conversation about that, and he was sort of observing the fact that students usually participated at congresses representing IPSF and EPSA, but then they took like some years whilst they were growing in their career. So there weren't many young pharmacists attending congresses, and then they would come back to the organization later on when they were already established in practice. But we were talking about the need to involve young pharmacists in the organization as well. So, well, I did my practice period. I came back to Portugal. I started working in my grandmother's pharmacy at the time. So I took over from her in terms of the supervision of the pharmacy. And I got two contacts, basically. One of them was from FIP, from Ton Hoek, inviting me to relaunch the young pharmacist group in the organization, because it was something that had already been established in the past, but was like dormant. It wasn't working anymore. So at the time, it was me, Gonçalo, and Sally Arneson from the UK. We relaunched the Young Pharmacist Group at that time. So that was one of the phone calls. And the other phone call was from the president of the National Pharmacy Association, whose vice president I knew whilst I was president of the National Pharmacy Students Association. And they thought that I had some sort of potential, so they invited me to become part of the national board of the National Pharmacy Association. So basically, that's how I started in terms of practicing community pharmacy. So I started in my grandmother's pharmacy, and I'm still in that same pharmacy. Yeah, and at the same time, at the international level, with the FIP, based on that interaction with Ton Hoek and the relaunch of the Young Pharmacist Group. And then I held several positions in FIP over the years. And then at the same time, getting involved in the National Pharmacy Association, then moved on to the Pharmaceutical Society, and then now back at the National Pharmacy Association. At the same time, due to that year in the Netherlands doing practice research, I also enjoyed it a lot. So I continued to work in research, and that's why I'm still involved in the Pharmaceutical Care Network Europe. And in my other company, EasyFi, what we do is we implement patient support programs via community pharmacies. So I'm very passionate about pharmaceutical care services and all these advanced services that really impact patients' quality of life. So in a nutshell, I would say that's how I started my career and how I established myself in the different lines of work and representation that I still hold today.
Amazing, amazing. Wow, very impactful story. And I think it's quite important that young pharmacists prioritize functioning in different positions in their national pharmaceutical associations and also looking towards international associations like the FIP, the FIP, Early Career Pharmacist Group, and the IPSF. Those are really important. Okay, thank you so much for your answer. I've heard a lot, I've learned a lot. Just starting the interview already. Really excited. Okay, so for our second question, right, just as you've stated, you have quite a number of leadership roles and you've occupied quite a number of those roles, both in your local pharmacy association and even in global pharmacy associations like the FIP, and also your professional commitment. And like, what has been your inspiration in taking up this role?
I think that people in general are my inspiration. I really, like I said, whilst I was growing up in my grandfather's community pharmacy, it was really about seeing the importance of the pharmacist in the community. So I think that even every role that I take outside my normal job as a community pharmacist is really related to making that role more visible and making that impact last, and making sure that we do have the impact that I know that we can if we care for the people, and if we go beyond the opportunity that we have to provide access to medications. Because what we really have to do is make sure that the investment that is done by society and patients themselves in medication really is transformed into patient outcomes. So that's really the mission of the pharmacist, to optimize treatment outcomes. And when we think about how we can impact positively patients' quality of life and clinical indicators, it's not only about the accessibility to medication, it's also about all the other kinds of services and the counseling and the follow-up and the support that you can give to people so that they can maximize the benefit that they take out of the treatments. So basically, that's my inspiration. It's really about how I can do that as an individual pharmacist with my patients, but at the same time making sure that the legislation, the regulatory framework, the associations, the research that is out there, everything is aligned in order to optimize that role of the pharmacist, and in order to ensure that we are sitting at the table when health issues are discussed. Because if we're not sitting at the table, nobody will remember that pharmacists exist, or the impact that we can have beyond the accessibility to the medication. So I think that my inspiration is really people, and understanding how we can really make an impact in people's lives. And also, I would say that my inspiration is also all the people that I work with to achieve these goals, because obviously nobody can do anything by themselves. Even at the pharmacy level, I'm not at the pharmacy as often anymore because of my other roles and responsibilities. So I have a team that really takes on the responsibility to do that role. And the same thing in all organizations where I was, it was always about the team effort and being able to mobilize a team to achieve a certain outcome. So I would say that I get inspired by the people to whom the services are provided, but also the people that are part of the team to make sure that the services are provided. So that would be my answer.
Great, great. I really appreciate the people-centered approach, right, to your motivation. It's quite important that we always have the end goal of improving health outcomes, whether at the individual level, working one-on-one with the patient, or at the national level in terms of policy formulations, in terms of interventions, in terms of designing projects. And it's really important that pharmacists always have a seat at the table. But just as you said, sometimes it can be very easy for other health professionals to forget how much impact the pharmacist can make in the health sector. Now, this is a second part, still around the same question. So you have mentioned that you occupy quite a number of positions and the importance of teamwork in making everything work. But how have you been able to manage rather, some of these responsibilities without compromising the long-term outcomes?
I'm not a micromanager in a way. So usually what I like to do is to discuss within the team what are the outcome indicators that we are looking for. And then people have the most freedom to organize themselves in order to achieve that end result. So I think that I try when I have people in my team who are more inexperienced, try to give them a little bit more guidance and support for them to achieve the goal. But ultimately, I'm really into looking at the long-term impact and the long-term result that we are looking for, and really ensuring that we measure in terms of the process if we are getting closer to the end result, but I don't really like to micromanage too much. So I think that's how I usually work within my teams. For most of the work that I do, specifically in terms of the political arena, usually results are not immediate. So we have to be patient, and we have to ensure that we are resilient in a way, in the way that we present our proposals, and that we don't give up, but at the same time also are not so perfectionist that we are waiting for the optimal process in order to implement something. So, and I think that pharmacists usually are a little bit of perfectionists. It's sort of one of our characteristics, because we understand the importance of the milligram or the small molecule. But I think that in most of the work that I do at the national level or international level, it's really about understanding, focusing on the long-term results, and never losing sight of where we want to go, ensure that we are moving a few steps closer to the objectives every day. At the same time, not to get too anxious about the fact that we don't have immediate responses, and at the same time living well with the fact that we sometimes have to implement something that is not perfect, but it gets us where we have to be in the future. So I think that's how I like to handle tasks in general.
Lovely. I really appreciate the fact that you always try to ensure that those that are inexperienced in the team have some form of guidance, and so they develop their capacity to do more, and also the fact that you don't wait for things to be perfect before you implement certain interventions. And just as you said, pharmacists are very, very detailed. If just one thing is wrong, sometimes they kind of like want to delay, try to fix it. And really, in the political space, that doesn't happen often. Yeah. You've spoken about some of your motivations, spoken about how you've been able to manage some of your responsibilities. I don't believe that those responsibilities are without some challenges. Right. So what are some of the challenges you have encountered?
A long time, I thought that being young and a woman was really an advantage in a way, because there weren't many women and there weren't many young people. And I'm talking, for instance, about FIP. So I really stood out amongst the crowd, you know, and at the same time, I really tried to be well prepared for the meetings and be respectful when more experienced people were talking, and really only talk when I had something that was meaningful to say. And for a long time, I think that being young and a woman, actually during that time, it was useful and an advantage, because there was this sense from the organizations that you needed younger people, and also to involve more women in leadership positions. Now that I'm in a high leadership position, particularly at the national level, and I had never felt that before, I do feel that there's still some way to go in terms of establishing a female leadership community in a way. I think that, in fact, looking back, I think I had a lack of female role models in a way, to understand that there is not only one leadership style. I always thought, growing up in my leadership positions, that when I reached a certain leadership position, like the high leadership position, that the leadership style had to be more like the ones that I observed, which are typically more associated with the way that men implement. And I don't want to generalize, because everyone is different, but there are some differences in the way that men and women approach subjects. And I've experienced that throughout my professional career. So I do think that now that I'm in this position, I understand that there is not only one leadership style that is effective. In fact, we can have our own leadership style, and it can be as effective as the ones that we have observed in the past that worked as well. But I don't think that I always knew that based on the role models that I encountered in my life, which were mostly men that supported me. And I have to thank all of those men that supported me and mentored me in the different leadership roles. But I do feel that I'm glad that we now see more women in these leadership positions, so that other women can also see that yeah, there are different leadership styles, and you don't have to adopt someone else's leadership style, because it won't work anyway. It won't be you. So I think that the challenge was mostly that one, understanding that there is not one effective leadership style. You have to really understand yourself, your shortcomings, your advantage points. And for me, what has worked has been to overwork my good points, my best attributes, because there are some flaws or some disadvantages. I don't know if you can call them that, but anyway, some parts of my personality that I can't really, even if I wanted, I can't really develop. It's not who I am. So yeah, there are many ways that you can reach the end goal, and you have to find yours. And I think that this has been the biggest challenge in my professional career, has been to find my leadership role and believe in my leadership style and my leadership role, and believe in it.
Wow, fantastic, right? I love the uniqueness in all this, right? Because it's quite important, just as uh, we have different individual personalities, it's possible we also have different leadership styles. And it's quite important that we also carry out a SWOT analysis of ourselves, so we can, just as you said, understand like our strengths, understand some of our weaknesses, and see how we could work around them to become a better leader. You mentioned that you were able to get mentorship and support from men, and I think that's something that we really need even much more in the current state of the profession today, right? Mentorship to encourage young pharmacists, both male and female, to participate more, to go for leadership positions, and to be the very best that they can be. So this question, the next question, is more towards your role in the National Portuguese Pharmacists Association. Currently, you're the president, and hopefully you'll be re-elected. So what are some of your major contributions so far during your mandate as president?
So I've been in this position for 2.5 years. And we've accomplished several things in terms of the relationship that we have established with the authorities, particularly with the Ministry of Health. We've had very good relationship, and this has developed into being able to negotiate and have established contracts with the National Healthcare Service for pharmacists to provide some services in community pharmacies. So this year we started, we were integrated in the National Healthcare System's strategy to vaccinate, so for flu and COVID-19. We were also involved 2 years ago in the national testing strategy. So we were testing for COVID-19 in community pharmacies. And this was a big project for community pharmacies as a whole. In the last year, we finally had access to patients' medication history, which we didn't have before. So the central medication history, so the integrated medication history. So we have access to it now, and also to the vaccination bulletin. We had the right to, beforehand, we could register the vaccines that we administered, but we couldn't read the vaccination bulletin, and we now can read the bulletin. So I would say that the relationship with the government has put us in a place where we are now negotiating for these kind of services. We are now talking about a minor ailments service, for instance, in community pharmacies as well. We are talking about expanding the types of vaccines that we can also administer in community pharmacies on behalf of the National Healthcare Service, because vaccinating, we've been doing that since 2008. But we are talking about several different services that pharmacies can provide against payment from the National Healthcare System. And there was a lot of campaigning around these services, and the government telling people to go to their community pharmacy. So I think that the communication and the reputation of community pharmacies also during this period also in a way it increased, as well as patient satisfaction. And we have had also good economic and financial outcomes, which is essential if we want to ensure sustainability of pharmacy services, if we want to have more resources to invest in human resources, in infrastructures, in equipments. So the economic indicators were also quite good in this period. So I think that in a way, this has been a very successful mandate, and I'm very happy about what the team achieved.
Okay, amazing work there, very amazing. I really appreciate the fact that you've been able to expand the network and build relationships with the National Health Associations. It's really important. Pharmacists can do a lot more than some of us are currently doing. And it's really important, just as you said, when our expertise and what we can do is made available to the public, people perceive us in high esteem, and also there is some economic benefit and work satisfaction to it, just as you've mentioned. And I hope for a successful re-election. I don't think I can vote, can I?
You cannot, but thank you for your best wishes.
Okay, so now we're looking at some of the skills and values So it's basically the skills and values that you possess and how you think these skills and values are important, right? Especially for early career pharmacists.
I would say that the most important ones would be the multitasking and the teamwork. And I guess that it goes hand by hand. Multitasking is a myth, right? You can only really be have your attention in one subject at a time. But in a way, for instance, all my roles in these different situations, me working as a community pharmacist, me as a general manager of a company that works with pharmacies to implement pharmaceutical care services, me in the board of a research network, me as the president of the National Pharmacy Association. In every one of these positions, I use knowledge and experience from the others. So it's really quite synergetic. But at the same time, I can't be everywhere at the same time. So I have to have really good teams that really understands the core values and the core responsibilities of one of each organization so that we can develop the work together. So most often I'm like the face of the success, but it's really not my success. It's really teamwork. So I would say that this has been what has been most impactful in terms of the skills and values has been the ability to engage multiple individuals in these different settings that have a common, that see a common goal and objective, so that together we can work towards that specific outcome and towards that specific goal. So I would say that that would be the most important one. And of course, being in these different positions and having teams work, I believe I have to be very accessible all the time so that people's work isn't delayed because of a no answer from me. So accessibility for sure. Combating my perfectionism to get things going. Like I said, I think that's important to let go of the perfectionism and be able to recognize small victories in the process and then identify opportunities. And one thing that I think I have like a characteristic that beforehand gave me some anxiety, but I now can live very well with is unsatisfaction. I'm a very unsatisfied person, but a very optimistic person. So I always think, oh, this is still not exactly how I want it, but I know we can get there. So it's really, I think this is the most important thing. I usually call myself an unsatisfied optimistic. And that's how I handle every project in a way. So I would say that those would be the skills and values and attributes that mostly have helped me advance in the career.
Lovely, lovely. The ability to multitask, the ability to work in teams, right? Meeting people from different places, helping them see the goal and work towards it, and also not looking beyond the obstacles and being optimistic, even when certain features are not as one would want in a perfect sense, but looking beyond that and being optimistic. What are some of like the mentors and models you have had so far?
So for sure, my grandfather, I've already talked about him. So he was a very important person in my life. And then I would say different people at FIP, for instance, all the presidents that I've worked with, Michelle Bookman, Carmen Peña, Dominique Jordan, Kamal Mida, they were all very good mentors to me. And I would have to mention also Henry Manassi, who was professional secretary before me. Yeah, these were important people at the international level. And Ton Hoek, I've already mentioned him. He was also a very important person in my initial engagement with FIP. At the national level, I would say also all the presidents that I've worked with. So I haven't had any like mentorship program formally in my life for me as a mentee. So I've been mentored. I've been a mentor in some short programs, but I haven't been like a formal mentee of a kind. So I always learned from the different presidents and leaders that I've worked with. So I would say João Silveira, who was that vice president and the president of the Pharmaceutical Society when I was a pharmacy student president. Also, I would say João Cordeiro, who was president of the National Pharmacy Association then. Mauricio Barbosa and Ana Paula Martins, they were also president of the Pharmaceutical Society. So I would say all those people that were very different, but I observed how they held their leadership positions, and I learned from how they applied their own personality to the leadership position, and then I acquired my own and was able to develop that in a way in the different leadership positions.
Okay, quite a number of role models there, right? And I appreciate the fact that you've been able to observe from a lot of them and see how they've been able to put things together and how they've been able to work and achieve great results. Observation is a really critical skill, and I think we really need to work more on that as young pharmacists. So this is the concluding question. So what's your advice, right, to young pharmacists out there who want to change the world just as you?
I don't know if I'm in a position to give any advice, but I would say that what moved me was being really passionate about what I believed in, and being able to convey that in conversations and speeches and positions that I had in the different meetings. And there's one thing that someone said to me in my career. I was talking to him, and he was the CEO of the American Pharmacists Association then, Tom Madigan. And I had just taken another position at FIP, and I was saying, oh, I don't know how I got here. I'm so lucky. And he said, well, I know exactly how you got here. You always say yes to everything. So I'm not saying that you can't say no to some things, but throughout my life, I think that and that happens a lot, particularly with women, I've noticed, at least with women that work with me. It's like usually we think about things a lot before we say yes, and we are always double thinking our capacity to do something. Whereas what I've tried to do is, if I get in a position where I'm invited to participate in anything, I say yes, and then I make sure I'm prepared. But I say yes first, and I take advantage of the opportunities. So I would say, if this can be if this can be interpreted as an advice, is take the opportunity and say yes. And then if you need help, if you need assistance, if you need to grow, it's also part of the responsibility and the job to grow in that position. You don't have to go there prepared for everything, because you will never be. So yeah, just go for it, I would say, and take advantage of every opportunity.
Yes, so we go for it and take advantage of every opportunity. So thank you very much for the interview. It's been quite enlightening, and I'm so glad that we had this interview. So thank you so much for your time. We look forward to having more of you at FIP ECPG.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.